What terrible thing did you do to a sibling that you will regret for the rest of your life? I used to bully my disabled brother for years. I know this will get a lot of hate, and yes, I deserve it. I am not looking for any validation or forgiveness. I know I am a piece of human trash. I just need to get this out. I have a brother who is 2 years older than me. He has suffered from a condition since birth that forces him to be in a wheelchair anytime he is out of bed. He cannot use his arms that well either. We used to have a great relationship until I turned 11, and I really started resenting the amount of attention he took from my parents. And how much stress he put them under. I had to constantly help him, change him, feed him. I hated it. There were a few years in his life when he was so mean to my parents, and it really made me resent him more. I realize now that I had no right to judge him, and I will never know how difficult life is for him. I stopped hanging out with him and made more friends at school. I would tell my family all the fun I was having at school during dinner to make him feel bad. I started barely talking to him or acknowledging his presence. He would get frustrated to the point of tears to get my attention. It started escalating 2 years ago when I would purposely turn off the Wi-Fi and unplug the TV every time we had to leave the house so my brother could do nothing but sit in his wheelchair. I would purposely delete his favorite saved shows on the DVR. I would make fun of his speech. Push things just out of his reach. I would act disgusted when I had to change or bathe him. It always made him feel bad, and he would apologize. I made my own brother apologize for taking a dump. What was wrong with me? But my saint of a brother never told my parents. And he never let me have it. 3 weeks ago, he was trying to talk to me non-stop, and I was just ignoring him. I got annoyed and wheeled him against his wishes to the backyard and placed him under an umbrella and went back inside. I fell asleep and realized I left him out there for 3 hours. When I went to bring him back inside, he was in tears and wouldn't look at me. He was humiliated. I have always felt guilty about how I treated my brother all these years, but my anger towards him overpowered it. But seeing that look on his face affected me in a way that was different from before. I stopped all the bullying after that day. I couldn't even look him in the face. I was so ashamed. Last Sunday my brother told me he was glad I was his brother and friend. I couldn't even respond. I went to my room and cried. I'm crying again typing this all out. When did I become an evil trash human being? I'm 17 and he's 19 now. I know there is nothing I can do to make up for the past 6 years. My brother will be returning with my mom from a specialist appointment tonight. I'm going to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness tonight. I want to start being a good brother to him again. I am a healthy guy with no issues who chose to bully his only brother for something that wasn't even his fault. I am so ashamed of myself. What regret will you have to live with for the rest of your life? The fact that I killed an elderly man in front of his wife and basically his entire family. One night when I was in college, I was driving to get some liquor for a party my fraternity was supposed to throw the following night. I was taking a street I was very familiar with to get back to my house. It was dark, but the street was lit with street lamps. I remember that I looked at my radio for a second, just a second, not very long at all. But when I looked back up to the road, there was a man crossing. I didn't have any time to react. By the time I saw him, he had already hit the good side of my car and bounced off the side. I remember screaming and hitting the brakes, and the wash of horror of what had just happened. I'll admit I had thought about speeding away, but I pulled over to the side and ran out of my car to check on this guy. It was a horror scene. When I got to him, his family was standing outside the restaurant he was leaving, and they were all screaming and crying. He was lying on the side of the road with blood coming out his nose and mouth. His body was all disjointed and somewhat looked like a rag doll. That is when I knew I had messed up. Not only did I run into this man, but I also killed him as well. 2 other men were standing with him trying to see if he was alright and calling 911. All I could say was I didn't see him. I was frantic by the time it had set in what I had done. I sat on the curb across from the family and listened to their crying in agony while we waited for the paramedics to arrive. I sat there and sobbed while paramedics took him away in an ambulance. I had no clue what would happen to me. Would I be in jail for the rest of my life? I don't believe I've ever cried so hard and for so long. The worst part about all of it, and what still kills me today, was that his wife came over to me while I was distraught on that curb, sat next to me, placed her hand on my shoulder and said I was married to him for almost 50 years. We had a good life. Then she hugged me and said that she forgave me. After everything was said and done, it was ruled that it was an accident. I wasn't charged with anything, and I had one of my friends pick me up from the police station. I went down a dark path the years after that. I drank heavily, smoked a lot of za, dropped out of college in my senior year, and had to move back in with my mother and father because I couldn't hold on to a job. My high school sweetheart broke up with me because of my changed attitude. At one point, I didn't even feel like living in the depressed hole that I was in, and I tried to unalive myself with pills. I felt like I was spiraling down and had nobody to hold on to. It was a hard road to recovery, but eventually I got my life back in order. Joined up with the Navy and saw a bit of the world, and now I'm on track to go back to college and hopefully finish what I started there. It took almost a decade, but I finally started to feel almost whole again. I'm back to hanging with my friends, and actually going out. I am also in talks again with my ex, so maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm putting my disabled 7-year-old into a residential facility. because there's only one of me and his brother is more critical. We do have a visiting home nurse but only 20 hours a week and we aren't eligible for more. I was starting law school, I gave up my dreams and my plan for my children for this potato. My older son can't do a lot of things he wants to do because of the younger's need for care and appointments. The final straw was I heard a sound. I went into younger son's room to check, thinking he had forgotten how to breathe again, and saw older son hitting him and screaming, "You're why I don't have a mother. You're why I don't have a father. You're why I can't have friends over. You're why I can't be in sports. I didn't ask for you and I hope you die." Instead of being horrified, I watched. And younger son just did not react. No signs of pain or fear or upset. No reaction at all. He breathes but he is not alive. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know who older son is. He has no sense of self, life experience, or awareness of his surroundings. He doesn't need to be in my home. He doesn't know or care where he is. He is genetically my son but he is not family. My previously abused, brain-damaged cat who can't walk straight has more personality and is far more lovable than my child. In fact, I was looking forward to raising a Downs baby. Even one with severe impairments, for that reason. With disability can come gifts. This boy is not a gift. He is a genetic mistake I probably should have miscarried and would have definitely terminated if I'd known he would be like this. And the flip side is, if he has awareness, he's miserable, and there is nothing I can do. If he has likes and dislikes, no one knows what they are. If he is in pain, he can't tell anyone. If he wants anything, he can't communicate. He's had every imaginable therapy, nothing has made a difference. And so he's leaving our home on the 29th. I feel excited and relieved and then guilty because I know we'll be happier with him gone. He's already taken my husband and my son's father. He was working so much overtime to pay for the cucumber's care. For the experimental therapies insurance wouldn't cover. Because this one was going to be the breakthrough. He was tired and defeated and disappointed. He sought counseling as well, but I don't think he could ever say the words "I don't want my son in my home" either. He's ruined my older son. I was so wrapped up in the younger I never realized how ignored and damaged he was. He lost his father too. I didn't just lose my husband. He is my priority now and this malignant lump can be someone else's problem. At least they'll be paid a wage to care for him. At least they'll get a break from him when they punch out. I just want to never think of him again and I'm not sorry. And for that, I'm sorry. What's the most hurtful thing a significant other has said to you? My husband threw away all my food because he claims I'm a cow. We've been married for 6 years and together for 9 years. 2 college kids who fell in love and decided to build a life together. I recently gave birth to a beautiful baby girl who's my entire world. I've suffered through 3 miscarriages and experienced several complications during pregnancy. I was on bed rest for 3 months and had to go through over 20 hours of labor before the doctors performed an emergency C-section. But our daughter was born healthy and happy and all that pain was worth it. I had gained about 30 pounds during my pregnancy. I was 5 feet 7 inches 121 pounds prior. After giving birth I gained another 10 pounds since I have been breastfeeding and my body has been craving calorie-dense foods. Not junk food. Just 70% minimum cacao chocolate, stuff like plantain chips, meats, dairy, etc. The doctor told me that I should listen to my body's needs and feed myself whatever I feel like I need. My husband has been helpful. He was happy when he learned the gender. Took care of me and accommodated all my needs during my bed rest. Postpartum, however, he started to make up excuses to not help with the baby. He hasn't been as affectionate with our daughter as I had hoped he would be. He made a few negative comments about my weight here and there. Like, "You're a bit chubby, today's a good day to work out and shed some pounds." I was an extremely active woman who worked out 4 to 5 times a week and indulged in dangerous and adventurous activities. But now I'm completely exhausted, I can barely get out of bed, I've collapsed 5 times, and I'm stressed out and at the same time I have to take care of our baby and the household. The other day, my husband had already gone to work and I went to the kitchen and found all my food gone. Every single bag, box, package. Everything. I called him crying to inquire where all my food is and he told me that he threw everything out because I needed to start losing weight. I hung up on him and called my best friend so she could bring me some food that I needed from the store. Afterwards my husband came home and when he saw the food that she had brought, he threw everything outside and smashed everything with his foot. I was furious with him and I was screaming and yelling at him for being a selfish piece of trash and he called me a fat cow while throwing some of the crushed packages at me and ended with punching a hole in the door. I called my brother who picked me and my baby up and I'm now staying at his place. His mother, sister, and even my own mother are all defending him and that I have to lose weight and apologize to him for my postpartum breakdown. I guess I'm just not sure if this is good grounds to file for divorce or should I listen to my mother? Is this how all men are wired? I met my boyfriend's ex and I want them back together. I have been with my boyfriend for nearly a year now. Let's call him Danny and he never talks or nearly touches the topic about his ex-wife, Mare, to me. The only thing I know about them is that they have a 5-year-old son whom he visits or brings to his home every weekend. His son graduated from daycare recently and Mare invited him for dinner as it is the request of their child. Danny asked me to come, although I hesitated at first, he insisted on bringing me. Saturday came and we went to Mare's house for dinner. I expected her to be a female dog to me but she welcomed us warmly. She's casual and very polite and even introduced me to their child. Her house is very welcoming, clean, and smells fragrant. It's home. I asked her if I could do something to help her prepare the dinner while their child and Danny are playing. She told me she can manage and told me to go ahead and bond with the boys. We had dinner and she and Danny were very casual. Not too friendly, but not too salty. They're not distant either. Mare didn't say something that would make me uncomfortable. but rather ask questions about me and anything you could talk about during a first meeting. I know she's a good mother as their son, Ian, is very polite, giggly, and behaved. I noticed how both of them will answer every question Ian asks even if it's a silly question. I also noticed how Danny looked at Mare. There's sadness and love. I know it as he never looks at me that way. When we're about to go home, Mare packed me some food when I mentioned I live alone and always eat takeaways. This really touched my heart. I've been keeping it inside me, but I could no longer keep it and asked Danny how things ended when he had such a beautiful wife and a playful and well-mannered son. Danny pulled over and I thought he'd want me out of the car, but he started to tell me that he cheated on her while she's out of the country burying her dead mother. The girl he slept with happened to be a mutual friend and secretly filmed them having sex and sent it to Mare. When Mare went home, she calmly told Danny she knew it and slept in Ian's room. He didn't hear a word from her, a single cuss, or anything hurtful. She just flatly said, "Serve the divorce papers and I'll sign it. Just make sure I have sole custody and you have visitation days." Danny told me how he tried to stop her, but she didn't say a single word and completely shut him out. A night before he left the house, he heard Mare crying and wanted to comfort her, but afraid he'd make things worse for her. Danny hated himself that he never had the chance to comfort her while she grieved for her mom, and instead cheated on her. He said Mare is too good to be true, but that is who she really is. Always available for her family and friends and even to his family and friends. She would cook for his friends while they watch football and have beer together. Visits his mom and dad, and bake cookies for them. Babysits his nephews and she never once complains about taking care of Ian. She never nags at Danny and is very patient about everything. This is the first time I saw him cry. He's a big man and he's sobbing uncontrollably. He's apologizing to me and told me he likes me and didn't use me to move on. This whole revelation didn't make me think that I'm being used. I felt his pain and I felt his love for his family. I asked him why he cheated and he said he's drunk and didn't even know it happened. After that night, he's still the same, but I am not. I felt like I was in the way. Mare is still single. She mentioned that she wanted to focus on raising Ian and pursuing her law studies. I love Danny, but I cannot compete with Mare. Should I break up with him and help him get back together with Mare? Today I effed up by mixing up the dates. My wife and I had tickets to Taylor Swift's Eras tour. This happened earlier tonight. Backstory, my wife loves Taylor Swift. We actually had one of our first dates at a Taylor Swift concert. She was so excited when the Eras tour was announced because she had missed Taylor's last tour, and hadn't seen her perform live since 2015. We were fortunate enough to get into the verified fan pre-sale because I've purchased many of Taylor's albums on vinyl for my wife as gifts. As some of you may have heard, the pre-sale was a mess and we did not successfully get tickets, looking for tonight, 7/29. We again were fortunate to get a second chance at purchasing tickets due to TM trying to save face. This time around Ticketmaster didn't allow you to choose specific tickets, just the price range you were comfortable with and they would choose the seats for you within a day or so. We successfully got tickets this time. She was so pumped. We have been talking about it for weeks. She spent the previous day getting her outfit decided. We got a babysitter. I got someone to cover me at work. We drove an hour, got there an hour early, paid $60 for parking, walked 3 to 4 miles to get to the stadium, waited in lines, got through security, got the tickets out, they don't scan, try to sort out why, and find out they were for yesterday. I tried talking to several staff about our predicament to no avail. Of course, they're completely sold out. Only option would have been to buy $1,000 tickets off of the secondary market. So now she won't talk to me, understandably, I'm in the doghouse, and have no idea how I'm going to get out. After a long, quiet, car ride home and a long night on the couch, I reflected on what I had done. The upset was palpable and I knew there was very little I'd be able to do to make things right. Flowers? Not even close. A bracelet? She'd never want to wear it for the risk of being reminded of this horrible night. I thought about buying tickets to a future concert, only thing is the last US show is this weekend in LA, and they're super fucking expensive. After that Taylor is heading internationally for the next year. This did however make me realize that whatever the cost, I should consider it. Having to live with this for however long she'd decide to keep me around felt like a certain hell. So I started doing the math. Would it make sense to plan a trip to Paris next year and see her perform there? How about a quicker trip to Mexico City? After analysis, most of her tickets were coming out to about the same on the secondary market, $1,000 per ticket. This sort of narrowed it down. I should just buy tickets for this weekend in LA. I'd rather have her experience the show earlier than later and leave less room for other mistakes/interruptions anyways. I called her best friend that lives in LA and let her in on my mistake. She audibly gasped, asked her if she was free this weekend and would want to escort my wife to the show. She said she'd love to. In exchange, she'll handle all the heavy lifting in LA, picking the wife up from the airport, driving to the show, bed for the night at her place, etc. She rightly suggested that I should run it by the wife before just going forward with it. I broached the subject, and broke our silence, with, "So, have you considered divorce yet?" This got a laugh and a reply of, "Not seriously." I told her the plan and she was ecstatic. However, she was concerned about the expense. I did my best to assuage her concerns and eventually she came around. I headed over to Southwest and StubHub, triple-checked the dates, purchased concert tickets for Saturday and plane flights from San Francisco to Los Angeles. So that's the plan. My mom is babysitting on Saturday, the wife flies down on Saturday morning, a friend picks her up, they see the best show of their lives, and she flies back on Sunday. What started as just a horrible experience, can hopefully turn into a funny story and a once-in-a-lifetime adventure for her and her friend. The mood in the house changed instantly. She's already let me off the hook for the attempt alone. We love each other very much and this wouldn't have affected us in the long run, but I certainly did not want this held over my head by her or family members. I wanted to make it right, even if it's stinging the pocketbook. My dad left me a strange box of envelopes before he passed. It changed my life. Death is always a surprise. No one expects it. Not even terminal patients think they're going to die in a day or two. In a week, maybe. It was no different with my father. In fact, his death was even more unexpected. He was gone at age 27. The same age that claimed the lives of several famous musicians. He was young. Way too young. Cancer doesn't choose its victims. He was gone when I was young, and I learned what a funeral was because of him. I was 8.5, old enough to miss him for a lifetime. My mother picked me up at school and we went to the hospital. The doctor told the news with all the sensitivity that doctors lose over the years. My mother cried. She did have a tiny bit of hope. As I said before, everyone does. I felt the blow. What does it mean? Wasn't it just a regular disease, the kind of disease doctors heal with a shot? I hated you, Dad. I felt betrayed. I screamed with anger in the hospital, until I realized my father was not around to ground me. I cried. With a shoebox under her arm, a nurse came by to comfort me. The box was full of sealed envelopes, with sentences where the address should be. I couldn't understand exactly what was going on. The nurse then handed me a letter. The only letter that was out of the box. Your dad asked me to give you this letter. He spent the whole week writing these, and he wants you to read it. Be strong. The nurse said, holding me. The envelope read when I'm gone. I opened it. Son, if you're reading this, I'm dead. I'm sorry. I knew I was going to die. I didn't want to tell you what was going to happen. I didn't want to see you crying. Well, it looks like I've made it. I think that a man who's about to die has the right to act a little bit selfish. Well, as you can see, I still have a lot to teach you. After all, you don't know crap about anything. So I wrote these letters for you. You must not open them before the right moment, okay? This is our deal. I love you. Take care of your mom. You're the man of the house now. Love, Dad. P.S. I didn't write letters to your mom. She's got my car. He made me stop crying with his bad handwriting. Printing was not easy back then. His ugly writing, which I barely understood, made me feel calm. It made me smile. That's how my father did things. Like the joke before the grounding. That box became the most important thing in the world for me. I told my mother not to open it. Those letters were mine and no one else could read them. I knew all the life moments written on the envelopes by heart. But it took a while for these moments to happen. And I forgot about it. 7 years later, after we moved to a new place, I had no idea where I put the box. I couldn't remember it. And when we don't remember something, we usually don't care about it. If something goes lost in your memory, it doesn't mean you lost it. It simply doesn't exist anymore. It's like change in the pockets of your trousers. And so it happened. My teenage years and my mother's new boyfriend triggered what my father had anticipated a long time before. My mother had several boyfriends, and I always understood it. She never married again. I don't know why, but I like to believe that my father has been the love of her life. This boyfriend, however, was worthless. I thought she was humiliating herself by dating him. He had no respect for her. She deserved something a lot better than a guy she met at a bar. I still remember the slap she gave me after I pronounced the word bar. I'll admit that I deserved it. I learned that over the years. At the time, when my skin was still burning from the slap, I remembered the box and the letters. I remembered a specific letter, which read, when you have the worst fight ever with your mom. I ransacked my bedroom looking for it, which earned me another slap in the face. I found the box inside a suitcase lying on top of the wardrobe. The limbo. I looked through the letters, and realized that I had forgotten to open when you have your first kiss. I hated myself for doing that, and I decided that would be the next letter I'd open. When you lose your virginity came right next in the pack, a letter I was hoping to open really soon. Eventually I found what I was looking for. Now apologize to her. I don't know why you're fighting and I don't know who's right. But I know your mother. So a humble apology is the best way to get over this. I'm talking about a down on your knees apology. She's your mother, kid. She loves you more than anything in this world. Do you know that she went through natural birth because someone told her that it would be the best for you? Have you ever seen a woman giving birth? Do you need a bigger proof of love than that? Apologize. She'll forgive you. Love, Dad. My father was not a great writer, he was just a bank clerk. But his words had a great impact on me. They were words that carried more wisdom than all of my 15 years of age at the time. I rushed to my mother's room and opened the door. I was crying when she turned her head to look me in the eyes. She was also crying. I don't remember what she yelled at me. Probably something like, "What do you want?" What I do remember is that I walked towards her holding the letter my father wrote. I held her in my arms, while my hands crumpled the old paper. She hugged me, and we both stood in silence. My father's letter made her laugh a few minutes later. We made peace and talked a little about him. She told me about some of his most eccentric habits, such as eating salami with strawberries. Somehow, I felt he was sitting right next to us. Me, my mother, and a piece of my father, a piece he left for us, on a piece of paper. It felt good. It didn't take long before I read, "When you lose your virginity. Congratulations, son. Don't worry, it gets better with time. It always sucks the first time. Mine happened with an ugly woman, who was also a street worker. My biggest fear is that you'd ask your mother what virginity is after reading what's on the letter. Or even worse, reading what I just wrote without knowing what wanking off is. You know what it is, right? But that's none of my business. Love, Dad. My father followed me through my entire life. He was with me, even though he was not near me. His words did what no one else could. They gave me strength to overcome countless challenging moments in my life. He would always find a way to put a smile on my face when things looked grim, or clear my mind during those angry moments. When you get married made me feel very emotional. But not so much as when you become a father. Now you'll understand what real love is, son. You'll realize how much you love her, but real love is something you'll feel for this little thing over there. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I'm just a corpse, I'm not a fortune teller. Have fun. It's a great thing. Time is gonna fly now, so make sure you'll be around. Never miss a moment, they never come back. Change diapers, bathe the baby, be a role model to this child. I think you have what it takes to be an amazing father, just like me. The most painful letter I read in my entire life was also the shortest letter my father wrote. While he wrote those 4 words, I believe he suffered just as much as I did living through that moment. It took a while, but eventually I had to open when your mother is gone. She is mine now. A joke. A sad clown hiding his sadness with a smile on his makeup. It was the only letter that didn't make me smile, but I could see the reason. I always kept the deal I had made with my father. I never read letters before their time. With the exception of when you realize you're gay. Since I never thought I'd have to open this one, I decided to read it. It was one of the funniest letters, by the way. What can I say? I'm glad I'm dead. Now, all joking aside, being half dead made me realize that we care too much about things that don't matter much. Do you think that changes anything, son? Don't be silly. Be happy. I would always wait for the next moment, the next letter. The next lesson my father would teach me. It's amazing what a 27-year-old man can teach to an 85-year-old senior like me. Now that I am lying on a hospital bed, with tubes in my nose and my throat, thanks to this damn cancer, I run my fingers on the faded paper of the only letter I didn't open. The sentence "when your time comes" is barely visible on the envelope. I don't want to open it. I'm scared. I don't want to believe that my time is near. It's a matter of hope, you know? No one believes they're gonna die. I take a deep breath, opening the envelope. Hello, son. I hope you're an old man now. You know, this letter was the easiest to write, and the first I wrote. It was the letter that set me free from the pain of losing you. I think your mind becomes clearer when you're this close to the end. It's easier to talk about it. In my last days here I thought about the life I had. I had a brief life, but a very happy one. I was your father and the husband of your mother. What else could I ask for? It gave me peace of mind. Now you do the same. My advice for you, you don't have to be afraid. P.S. I miss you.